What you're looking at here is the Minnesota data results from the 2020 presidential election. This is available from the New York Times or any other website that provides all of the data. What was provided is the total vote count at a certain time, and then the percentage that went to Trump and the percentage that went to Biden. That is all the data that was provided. The percentage that went to a third party, it was calculated. The number of votes that went to Trump was calculated. It's basically the total votes times the percentage that went to Trump. Same with Biden, the total votes times the percentage that went to Biden. And then the third party votes was derived from that data, as well as how much the third party has the vote count changed between each timestamp, how much the vote party percentage changed between that timestamp, and then also the same things for Trump, Biden, and then just the total change. Now, what I've highlighted here in yellow is every single time that the third party candidates, and there's a lot of them in Minnesota, it's not just one, but anytime the third party overall vote went down, these are highlighted in yellow. And you'll notice that the percentage of it went down is pretty consistent, which we'll go over in a minute. But essentially, that their strategy was to, I'm going to highlight the third party percentage here. So watch my mouse. So every single time votes came in, if that total got above 2.1% roughly, what they did is they adjusted it down by somewhere between 4 and 5%. So for example, at this very early in the voting process, the third party votes were coming in at higher than 2%. So what they did is they knocked 645 votes off of the third party candidates, which was roughly a 5%, 4.9% change. Now, I don't know what happened to those votes, but I do know that they're no longer counted towards the third party, and it's like they're basically gone. Now, as we keep going, as results keep coming in, roughly it stays the same, 2%, 2.1%, 2.1%. But then what happened is this is actually just about to go to 2.2%, and what they did is they adjusted it down by 4 to 5% roughly, and the third-party candidates lost roughly 1,100 votes. Now the percentage started creeping up again, and then it got to more than 2.1, and it was adjusted down. This time it was adjusted down by 231 votes, just to keep it at the correct percentage. This kept happening. Every time it got above 2.1, they would adjust down by 1,300 votes, 1,400 votes, but it's always somewhere between 4 and 5%. That's how much the third-party candidates' vote total lost. Now, as we keep going, here we hit something super interesting. So the vote total had gotten so fast, so it went from 2.1 to 2.9, which is a huge jump. So what you'll see happen is the cheating algorithm, essentially we hit 3% and it had a major correction, brought it right back down to 2.1% again. And what that did is it stole 13,500 votes from the third party candidates in Minnesota, and they dropped the third party percentage. Like they stole 30%. That's almost a third of all of the votes that were going to the third party at that time, just gone. So their strategy here is to keep this number, the percentage of votes that go to the third party, at 2.1%. Now, you'll also notice that this keeps happening. Like this happened multiple times throughout the evening, until there was one big adjustment, which is the second part of their strategy here. So I have it highlighted here, line 53. Where is it? This one. Now here what they did is I'm going to scroll to the right a little bit. But what you're looking at here is this is a full down adjustment for all three major candidates. This was their total adjustment when their 2% strategy wasn't working to keep Biden the candidate. So what they did is, at this one major adjustment, the total number of votes from all candidates lost is 194,846. That's a huge number that was gone at that time. But what they did here is they took roughly 6,000 votes away from the third party candidate, which was 13% at the time. They stole 107,000 votes from Donald Trump, which was approximately 12% of his total votes at the time. But to keep it looking fair, they stole only 81,000 votes from Biden. So that's only 7% of his total at the time. So this is their major adjustment. When the votes were so out of whack and it was so obvious that Biden was going to lose, they just got rid of a huge number of votes from all three candidates, but at different ratios so that Biden would still come out ahead. So, I mean, 81,000 versus 107,000, that's almost a 30,000 vote difference in terms of how many were stolen from, taken away from one candidate versus the other. They absolutely stole this from, I think from Trump, but really the big losers in Minnesota here that their votes were really stolen was the third party candidates. Now, I've already done the math. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this by all of the votes that were stolen from the third party over the course of the evening. So this is every single time that they adjusted the numbers. They adjusted it a total of 23 times. If you see down here on the right, this sum, they stole 59,683 votes from third party candidates. Now, I don't know if you remember or not, but the actual number of votes that third-party candidates were granted at the end of the evening was only 68,722. So 68,000 versus 50 plus the 59,000 stolen, that's 128,000 votes total for the third-party candidate. They stole 86% of the third-party voters in Minnesota. Now, I can't prove that they went to vote, that they changed the votes to Biden, but I can prove, using this numbers that's publicly available, that they kept the third-party vote at 2.1% and would not let it get higher than that. Let's look at the Trump numbers. They only did the one major adjustment to Trump that we've already talked about, and then they also adjusted roughly 3,000 votes either way. Now, they also adjusted Biden, but they did him a lot more. They stole roughly 9,000 votes from him. And I think that the reason that they did that was in order to keep it looking legitimate. If Biden hadn't had any votes taken from him, then people would just automatically assume that this was cheating. But because there's so many votes taken from all three candidates, it creates an air of mystery, and so it can't be proven either way. And this is the smokescreen that they're running in order to avoid being easily detected. But the strategy here that they went with is the third-party votes were not allowed to get more than 2.1%, and the votes were consistently stolen from the third party. And I think what happened is they probably, although I can't say for sure, gave those votes to Biden over the course of the evening is what happened. So that is how the Minnesota election was stolen from the third party and given to Biden.